We're going to go over what is needed for your listings. We have a listing document checklist prepared for you that lists out exactly what you need to have for your listing. You need a copy of the tax record from Realist that shows the owner's names and the date built. You need the CDIF, the Chapter 7, which is a summary of rights and obligations, the cybersecurity notice, the escrow agency notice, listing CMA, a one-line report showing you've done the CMA in the area, a signed seller net sheet. You can create a net sheet at this website, the SAER, the SLA, the data input, the DPOR, the ACUS, which is required for Virginia Beach, Norfolk, Chesapeake, and Hampton, lead-based paint if built prior to 1978. If it's a short sale, you need the short sale addendum to the listing agreement. And if it is a short sale, you need the COM short for the commission. And then as needed is your listing change form. You have contingency removal documents. If you've got an inspection, you'll need a PICRA. If you've got a POA 1, you need a POA 2, a ConRes 1, a ConRes 2. Then any amendments, the final walkthrough, and then hopefully you won't need this, but a listing withdrawal form. We'll go over all of these documents during this session. Start with the consumer disclosure information form. It's the same form that is used for buyers. It's the 7 pages of all the things that can and have in the past gone wrong in a real estate transaction. Your seller should read over it and understand everything that is in this document. You're going to have them initial the bottom of all of the pages as they go through. I'm not going to read all the documents to you. You need to know them and understand them and be able to explain them to your client. Initials at the bottom of each page. So like I said, there are 7 pages to this document. On the 7th page, we need buyer or seller's names and signatures, and then the signature of the licensee. That's you as the agent representing Coastal Town Realty. So 7 pages for that with initials and signatures. Then we have the summary of rights and obligations of sellers and purchasers under the Virginia Residential Property Disclosure Act. Again, this is another 3 pages of more things that can happen in the state of Virginia. The CDIF is more geared towards Hampton Roads area, whereas this summary of rights covers all of Virginia. So we're going to have initials on the bottoms of page 1 and 2. And then page 3 has the seller's signatures and the date they sign it. Then we have our office cybersecurity notice. You want all of your clients to always understand that cybersecurity is something that they have to be really diligent about protecting. You want sellers to read this and sign it as well. Then we have our escrow agency notice. Now, obviously your seller is not going to have EMD held in escrow, but they need to understand that we do not hold escrow. We do not accept any funds. We do not act as an escrow agent for any transactions. So this is more of a notice to them that we will not be holding any money. And typically this is who our settlement goes through as Jones, Walker, and Lake, and have them sign it. If they have a different attorney or title company they want to use, they can absolutely use another company, and you would change this information at that point. Then we come to the standard agent exclusive right to sell brokerage agreement. We call this the SAER. It's the only one we use. So you're going to fill out the full name of the sellers as shown on the realist tax report. You fill out Coastal Town Realty and the full address, including the street number, the street name, the city, state, and zip, as it's shown on the tax report. This goes over the brokerage relationship. Again, we don't do dual agency, but it explains it. And then we come into our broker fee. We're hoping you're going to take 6% listings and you're going to share 3% with the cooperating brokerage. You're going to fill in Coastal Town Realty. You're going to sign it and the seller is going to sign and date. Then we have the standard listing agreement called the SLA. And this goes over all the details of the property and the details of the actual listing terms. You fill in again the listing, the legal name of the seller from the realist tax report, full name of the city, and the full street address. Then you're going to fill in the full legal description from the realist tax report. The term of the listing is not necessarily the date you're filling out all this paperwork and having it signed, but it's the date the listing goes live in the MLS. And then it will be active until 12 midnight on the date the listing will expire. Sales price is going to be whatever price you've agreed to with the seller. You're going to put that here. Seller's contributions, this can be negotiable. You can put to be determined. It could be 3%. It can be 0, and it can be changed at the time of contract, depending on the contract that comes in or the offer that comes in. Seller's authorization for listing data, photos, advertising, their cooperation, signage. Offers to purchase. The seller needs to authorize or not authorize your ability to disclose that there is another offer on the table. You can go two ways with this. If the seller does not authorize and another agent comes in and says, hey, we're getting ready to write an offer. Do you have anything you're working with? All you can say to that agent is the seller has not authorized me to divulge that information. If the seller authorizes you to divulge the existence of another contract, that's all you can say is, yes, there's another contract. You cannot divulge any information about that contract. All you can say is, yes, we have another one the seller's looked at. So just be really careful. The safest bet is for the seller to not authorize that. And then all you can say is, I'm sorry, the seller has not authorized me to divulge that information. So it's something to discuss with your seller. And then the lockbox, do or do not authorize the use of the lockbox. It's in the seller's best interest to authorize the lockbox. The lockbox tracks who comes and goes out of the property and makes it easy for you to be able to show the property in a timely fashion. If the house was built prior to 1978, you're going to check was, or was, if it's after 78, was not. We get into condo. If it's not a condominium ownership, you're going to check NA. If it is a resale condominium, you'll check does or does not authorize the listing agent to request the resale disclosure package. If it's new construction or conversion, you'll check here. Or if it's a condominium consisting of 3 or fewer units that is exempt from the Condo Act, you would check here. Seller's initials at the bottom of page 2. For the Property Owners Association, it's either not applicable, or if it is in a Property Owners Association, the seller does or does not authorize the listing firm agent to request the disclosure packet. And then the same with the co-op. Most often that's not applicable. If it is in a co-op, the seller does or does not authorize the firm to get the disclosure package. Sewage and septic, you're going to check one of these items. The property is not served by an on-site septic system. That means they've got city water and sewer. Property is served by an on-site septic system that is not subject to a waiver or is subject to a waiver, and you will need to disclose those items. Again, here, seller acknowledges that they've received the CDIF and the Chapter 7. We've taken care of that. Seller's going to initial the bottom of the page. Seller guarantees that they have full ownership of the property and can transfer it with no encumbrances. If there are any exceptions to that, you would list them here. K, triple I, seller has or does not have actual knowledge of lis pendens filed against the property. Most often that's going to be does not. If you have any exceptions, this is where you would indicate a short sale or a bankruptcy or another court of approval item like a divorce or an estate that would need approval. Pending building or zoning law violations, has or does not have actual knowledge. The property used to manufacture meth has or does not have actual knowledge. Initials at the bottom of the page. Other provisions, this is where you're going to put the administrative fee of $450 paid to Coastal Town at settlement. And then if you're related to the seller in any way or have any kind of a representation with a LLC or anything that is related to the seller, you would disclose that here. And it would be listed in the listing on the data input sheet as well. Initials at the bottom of the page. And then everybody signs and fills in all this information on the last page. That is the standard listing agreement. The dates on your standard listing agreement on page 1 are also going to coincide with your property data input form, which is next. So you're going to fill in all the fields that are denoted by an asterisk. These are required fields, which means there has to be something in that field, regardless of whether it exists on the property. So for instance, if there is no fireplace, you're going to put 0 fireplaces because it's a required field. So we'll go through these quickly. I've highlighted them here for you. Again, they're marked with an asterisk. This is your RAIN ID. Then you're going to put the selling broker fee from, that's going to come from the SAER, whatever amount. We're hoping it's 3%. If you've made any special commission arrangements with the seller, you're going to acknowledge it here. Lockbox type is most often going to be a RAIN lockbox. You're showing instructions, whether they be call agent or go and show, whatever you need to put there. Your agent remarks are going to go here. These are items that are not necessarily something you want the consumer to see, but that the agent should be aware of. Then you're going to put the street number, the street name, the street type. So it would be 968 First Colonial Road. So the street designator, whether it's a road, a cul-de-sac, whatever, a crescent, circle, drive would go here. Then the state, the area, the city or county. Since we don't have counties, you're going to put the city twice. It's going to be Virginia Beach and Virginia Beach. And then the zip code, property identification number from the tax record, the subdivision name. And it says here, you go to rainmls.com for a list. The division number will automatically populate. I'm going to put the legal description. These are public schools. These are not private, charter, or other schools. It's public schools. So the senior high school, the middle school, and the elementary school. Please take the time to go to that city's education website, put in the address of the property, and pull down the actual schools that that property attends. It is your responsibility to come up with the correct schools for that property. Then the crash and noise zones for your ACUs. Whether the property is attached or detached, your list price must match your standard listing agreement. Your list date and your expiration date also must match your standard listing agreement. Your listing type is always going to be standard agency exclusive rights, SAER. Your ownership is either going to be condo or simple. We do not do, it could be co-op. It's not going to be often a co-op. We don't do leasehold or timeshare. You're also going to put the approximate square footage of the living area. Then you're going to have your number of bedrooms, full baths, half baths, number of stories, number of fireplaces. Again, if there's not a fireplace, you're going to put a 0 here. It is a required field. It has to have something in it. If there's no half bath, you're going to put 0 half baths. You're going to put the year built, whether or not it's new construction, and if it's new construction, whether or not it's a master model. Most of these are going to be no. We don't often do new construction. Is there a first floor bedroom that has a first floor full bath? Yes or no? Yes or no? The number of bedrooms with an ensuite bathroom. That's not required, but it's something that buyers want to know and will populate in the things that go out to the interwebs. Owner's name or names based on the tax record. Here again, condo association legal name, condo association management company and contact, and for the POAs, if it's not in a condo or POA, you're going to put NA or none in these blanks because they are required fields. Type of sewer, most often is going to be city or county. It might be septic, and here if you've got the waiver, it's septic on waiver. Type of water, typically city or county, or a well or other, whatever it may be. Water heater, electric or gas are your most common. Under disclosures, you're almost always going to have the DPOR. You're going to list things like an estate, or if you're disclosing meth lab. If you've got property owners association, for a condo, the resale certificate is required. If you're related to the seller, if you're an owner agent, all of these things are disclosed here in this section. Then under the features, again, you've got your asterisks. These items are required. So for example, if there is no pool, you click no pool because it's a required field. If you've got to put one item under fence, if there's no fence, you click none. If it's not waterfront, you click not waterfront. You don't skip over these because it's not applicable. It's a required field. Therefore, you have to check something under these columns. I've highlighted for you the required columns. It doesn't mean you can't fill in the view, the equipment. The more information you can give that buyer, the better. Feel free to click, as much as you want, but these are the minimum required fields. Roof, style, foundation, flooring. Down here, you can put the number of rooms. Then you have your public remarks, up to 1,000 characters, and your photo code. You are going to take, at a minimum, a nice outdoor photo and make sure it's uploaded. You do not want rain to go take the picture and load it up. You have no control over how that looks. Take the time, do your photos, and upload them. Last page, the seller finance options, usually it's none. For a condo, you have to disclose what agencies are approved for purchases. If you need help with that, check with your lender. Taxes go here. And again, if there's no HOA, POA, or condo fees, you're going to check no, and you're going to put 0 in these boxes. They are required fields, therefore something must be in them. So you're going to put 0s. Then you're going to state the possession. Is it at settlement? Is it a particular date? Most often it's at settlement or closing. We don't handle auction properties, and then you're going to sign it and the seller's going to sign it. And here's your property disclosure statement. You need to have the complete street address with city, state, and zip code, and the legal description from the realist tax report. You're going to have the owner's sign and date. The date needs to match the date of your paperwork or the list date of the property. It can be signed prior to the list date, but it needs to be within a couple weeks of the list date. And then you have your ACUs, or the military noise disclosure. And again, this is for Hampton, Norfolk, Chesapeake, and Virginia Beach. If you're in any of the other cities, you're going to check no and sign below. You're going to skip all of section 2. If you're in the 4 cities I listed, you're going to check yes. You're going to fill out the whole address. You're going to put the name of the city the home's located in, and you're going to check the ACUS maps for the noise and accident zone. And you're going to have the seller's initial next to whichever disclosure they're going to, whichever one they're disclosing. The clear zone is essentially the end of the runway. If it is in a less than 65 decibel zone, it's going to be none, which means it's outside of the accident potential zones. At the bottom of the form, you're going to have the owner sign it. And down here, I have listed for you the resources on where you can get those ACUS maps for each city. So you have that information available on where to go to. You plug in the address in the ACUS map, and it'll show you the noise and crash zones. If the property was built prior to 1978, you must provide the lead-based paint disclosure. Again, full address with the street, city, state, and zip code. The seller is going to initial at least one item under A and one under B. Typically, it's the little double I where they have no knowledge and they have no reports. This is typical. If they have knowledge and reports, you're going to do what is required under single I. Then seller and agent's date and sign. If you're doing a short sale, this addendum is required to be attached to the standard listing agreement. So it's going to match the date on the standard listing agreement, names of the sellers, Coastal Town Realty, full legal description from the realist tax report, and the full street address. It's acknowledgement of the short sale, the considerations the seller should be aware of, and then signatures and names of everybody. And then if you are doing a short sale, please make sure that the short sale offer of compensation to the selling firm is attached to the listing in RAIN. This protects your commission because the rules are if it says 3% in the MLS, you have to give 3%. Well, if it's a short sale and the bank comes back and says, well, we're only going to give a 4% commission, we don't want you to have to give 3 of that away to the other brokerage. So this covers you, and you're going to fill in all the information. You're going to put whatever is on your SAER here. Typically, it's going to be 3%. However, you're disclosing that if the bank allowed commission comes back at less than a total of 6%, the listing and selling firm will split that 50-50. So if it comes back at a total of 4%, you still get 2% and the other side gets 2%, and we don't have to give away the full 3%. However, if you do not have this form attached to the listing in RAIN, when it's a short sale and the bank comes back with a commission that is less than what was in the SAER, you have to give away the full amount. So please make sure that this is attached to your listing in RAIN if you are doing a short sale. If you've got a listing and you need to make changes, this is the form you're going to use for it. It's the listing change form. You're going to put the MLS number, the address, and then check any appropriate changes, whether you're extending the listing, whether you're putting it back on market because the deal fell through, if you're putting a contingency in place, or any other miscellaneous changes happen here. And then everybody's going to sign it. You do not need broker signature if you've got the seller signature, okay? And then withdraw agreement. Let's hope you sell your listings. You don't need this form. I hope you don't ever get comfortable with this form. But should you need it, you're going to fill in the MLS number, whether it's detached or attached, the listing firm, the full address, the date the listing went live on the standard listing agreement, and then the reason they're withdrawing the property. They must give a detailed reason. And then once they've signed it, this needs to go to Thomasina for signature. You're going to have to give her a reason why, and she has to sign off on it before the listing will be withdrawn from RAIN. When you're filling out your remarks, please be aware of the fair housing hot list of words. Here's what is unacceptable. Here's what's acceptable. Please be mindful of these things. And then RAIN's listing fee and fine schedule. These are all the fines that RAIN can levy based on your listing. Again, if you don't have your photo and they send the photographer out, it's $75. And you know that's the day the trash cans are laying in front of the yard, the kids' toys are scattered all over, cars are parked, and you don't get a very appealing photo taken. And that's what they're going to slap on your listing. So please don't do that. Please make sure your photos are good, quality photos, and you get them loaded up. And then listing violations. These are assessed to agents. Very often they'll send us a warning saying, hey, you need to fix this. If you don't, we'll do that. So lead-based paint disclosure, your listing is withdrawn. FSBO sign violation, listings withdrawn. So just be mindful of these. You've got people who have your back to help you make sure that you don't have fines coming your way, okay? At the end of the deal, the selling agent hopefully is going to send you a walkthrough. If there are any issues with the property, this form must be provided and signed by all parties in order to make sure that it's all taken care of. We don't do things verbally, we do it in writing. So if there's a problem, the selling agent needs to provide this signed by the buyer stating what the problem is. If it is not provided, please get an email or a text from the selling agent stating the buyer waived the walkthrough or they didn't do the form or whatever, and load that into the walkthrough spot in Brokerment, showing that you attempted to get this form. And again, it's going to come with the date the contract was written. It should match the front of the contract with the address. And then the buyer should have filled in all of this. If there are any issues, this is where the information would be. And the seller is going to sign and date it. So that covers all of our listing documents. Again, if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out and we'll get you figured out.